Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 1989 Nissan S Cargo. So this is the fourth and final of the Pike cars that have been added to this game via the Nissan Retro Rides car pack. We've looked at the previous three, and yeah, all three of those cars have been different in their own ways despite having their similar underpinnings. This is no different. So produced between 1989 and 1991, 10,685 of these were made, although some report is slightly higher than that, around 12,000. Styling wise, it was inspired by the Citroen 2CV delivery van, and yeah, I can certainly see that from the kind of side profile that's got going on. It's just been slightly more over exaggerated, I guess you could say. And the name S Cargo stands for small cargo, although the way that you say escargot makes it sound like it's the French word for snail, escargot, which is spelled E-S-C-A-R-G-O-T. So it's kind of got a double meaning in that regard, because the 2CV was also kind of regarded as a snail in the way that it looks. And yeah, I can certainly see that with this, with the big rear end looking like the snail shell. So yeah, kind of can see that, to be honest. And yeah, what I really like about these Pike cars is that yes, it could have just slapped a different looking body onto each of the vehicles, all of which share the same underpinnings as the first generation Nissan Micra, and then called it a day. But they have gone to some effort to make the interiors at the very least feel different, while the ethos of each vehicle has also come across as feeling different as well. But yeah, as you can see on the interior, a lot more practical in here in terms of just being a work kind of van. So you got no center console in between the seats or anything like that. Everything's just been moved upwards. So you've got the automatic gear lever there because it only has a 3-speed automatic gearbox as an option. No 5-speed manual optional on this one like the previous two cars we've looked at. And yeah, so everything is upwards. You've got the dial in the middle there. So yeah, all very practical, which is extended to the rear cargo area, as you can see. So very roomy, very tall, low lip as well. So yeah, fairly decent sized rear end there. And as you can see, there is even some rear seats, which might not be terribly necessary, I don't think, but they are there, as you can see. Just scoot around. Are they rear seats, or is it just a rear partition? I think it's a rear partition, to be honest. I don't think they are actually seats. I have to admit that I never initially noticed them. It does look like it could be seats or just a rear partition, just a section off the rear end. But regardless, yeah, it's more about the rear cargo space than anything else. And yeah, the tall boxy shape is made to, you know, maximise the amount of space that it's got, because at the end of the day, it's only based on the underpinnings of a Micra, so you don't have the most amount of room to play with. So yeah, they've really made the most of what they've got there. Now, even though the underpinnings are the same as previous Pike cars, and you know, still got the same 3-speed auto, the engine is actually bigger. It's a 1.5 litre inline 4 as opposed to the 1 litre engines that we've got in the other 3 Pike cars, which means this has the second most power at 72 horsepower, only 3 horsepower down on the Figaro. But because it has the larger engine, it has more torque than the Figaro, despite not having a turbocharger at 85 pounds-feet. So yeah, it needs that extra torque just purely because it's more likely to be carrying a lot more in the way of weight than a Figaro would be. So yeah, it's really cool that they really thought about these cars as individual cars and not just different body and then that's it. Interiors have been different. The general ethos of each car has been different. The Figaro, for instance, is a luxurious short to medium cruiser. The POW is a kind of a family car. The B1 is a you know, a kind of like youthful, slightly sporty vehicle. No, it's not all that powerful, but it's got a revvy engine, and yeah, you can get it with a 5-speed manual. You'll be able to make the most of it. And this is a work van. So yeah, I like the fact that we're all different kind of vehicles in their own right. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see just what this car can do. Right, so here we are once again at the drag strip, so let's see what this car can do before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll hoon it around the free roam element a little bit. So yeah, this is the heaviest of the Pike vehicles, the only one above £2,000 at £2,094. Although I imagine that weight might go down a little bit if you went for the optional canvas roof, which I personally can't see the point of, because at the end of the day I've never ever looked at a Ford Transit, for instance, and gone, oh, that needs a canvas roof. So yeah, it's just not something I see as entirely necessary. But yeah, because it is the heaviest, it's by no means the quickest of the 4 Pike cars, but because it does have more power and torque than the POW, it is actually quicker to 60 than that car while having a marginally higher top speed. So yeah, this can do 0 to 60 in 17.518 seconds, which I believe, yeah, is more, just under a second quicker than the POW, while this can do 86 miles an hour, whereas the POW can only do 85. Only a mile an hour, but you know, it does show that the extra power in this really is necessary, because if it had the same power as say the POW, then yeah, this would be way slower than that. Probably be looking at 0 to 60 in over 20 seconds. So yeah, that extra power and extra torque is really rather necessary, especially since, you know, you're still dealing with that 3-speed automatic gearbox, which really isn't able to make the most of the power that it's got, which is the same with the other 3 Pike vehicles, to be honest, although it's more noticeable in the B1 and the Figaro because they are a little bit more sporty. But yeah, it's just not all that usable in terms of getting the most out of the power with this automatic gearbox, unfortunately. But at least with the power and the B1 you could option a 5-speed auto, whereas with this and the Figaro you just can't, which yeah, is a little bit of a shame. Handling wise, yeah, it's a bit like the power really. The extra weight really does it no favours in terms of making it agile and such. Yeah, it's nowhere near as heavy as some other fans out there, but with the lack of power you really want it to be kind of agile and fun to drive, and yeah, it's just a little bit weak in terms of its handling really, nowhere near as fun as the Figaro or the B1. I'd say the power is probably a little bit worse than this, just because this has that extra bit of power, and therefore is able to at least get to 60 that marginally bit quicker. But the power is going to be that bit more agile just because it weighs significantly less. But the extra power in this does give it that little bit more dynamic drive than the power would, which, yeah, if that power had the same engine as this, then yeah, that power would definitely probably be one of the better ones of the 4. But as it stands, yeah, I think the power really is a little bit underwhelming in a lot of ways, to be honest. Whereas this, yeah, it looks mental, quite frankly. It really does. No car out there that looks like this, and on top of that you got a decent amount of torque that will definitely be needed when it comes to hauling around any kind of heavy cargo. So yeah, and yeah, this is no doubt going to be able to do that with that torque from that much larger engine. And it does make me think why they never put the larger engine in the other 2 cars, the POW and the B1. I can see why they wouldn't in the Figaro, because that is small and yeah, got the turbocharger, so it doesn't really need it. But with the Figaro, with the B1 and the POW, this larger engine would have really helped those cars, quite frankly. But yeah, that's just the way it goes at the end of the day. So yeah, overall I've really enjoyed this car pack. It's, yeah, just really interesting to have these 4 cars into the game. I have heard of at least 3 of them before. The B1 is the only one that I hadn't heard of before the car pack was released, but I find it really interesting to dive into each of these cars and see that even though they do have the similar underpinnings from the first gen Micra, they are at the end of the day different in terms of the way they look and in terms of what they are, you know, to be used for. And yeah, that is really admirable from this, and that they put some thought into this rather than just go and look at these mad looking cars, buy them, and no substance underneath, which is just not the case. So yeah, highly recommend getting this car pack if you haven't already. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.